Most men grow up believing that attraction is simple. They are told that if they want respect, admiration, or meaningful relationships, they must focus on three things: money, status, and appearance. Build wealth, look impressive, display success. The world repeats this message constantly through social media, movies, and even everyday conversations. And at first glance, it seems believable. After all, money can open doors. Good looks can capture attention. Status can create influence. These things appear powerful on the surface, but if you observe the world carefully, something strange becomes obvious. You will often see men who have everything society says they need: wealth, appearance, and success, yet they still struggle to maintain respect. Their relationships feel unstable. Their presence lacks quiet authority. Sometimes people admire them publicly, but quietly lose respect for them behind closed doors. So the question becomes unavoidable. If money and looks are supposed to create attraction and respect, why do they fail so often? Stoic philosophy gives a simple but powerful answer. External things may attract attention, but they rarely create lasting admiration. What truly shapes how people perceive you is something far less visible: your emotional stability. Think about the people you naturally respect. Chances are they are not simply the richest or the most attractive individuals you know. Instead, they are the ones who remain calm under pressure, the ones who do not panic when problems appear, the ones who maintain control of themselves even when emotions run high. There is something deeply powerful about a person who cannot easily be shaken. Imagine two men entering the same stressful situation. One becomes reactive. His emotions swing wildly between anger, frustration, and insecurity. His words become impulsive. His decisions become unpredictable. The other remains composed. He listens carefully. He pauses before speaking. His reactions are measured rather than emotional. Without realizing it, people immediately trust the second man more. Why? Because emotional stability signals something profound. Self-mastery. The Stoic philosophers understood this long ago. They believed the greatest power a person could develop was not control over wealth, reputation, or circumstances, but control over their own mind. Marcus Aurelius once reflected that the mind becomes stronger when it refuses to be disturbed by events outside its control. In other words, true strength is not found in dominating the world around you. It is found in mastering your response to it, and this quiet mastery changes how people see you. When someone is emotionally stable, their presence becomes grounding. They do not create chaos, they calm it. They do not react impulsively, they respond thoughtfully. This kind of energy is rare in a world where most people are constantly reacting to their emotions. Think about it. Many relationships collapse not because of money or appearance, but because of emotional instability. Anger destroys trust. Insecurity creates tension. Overreactions slowly erode respect. But when a person develops emotional balance, something remarkable happens. People begin to feel safe around them. Their presence becomes steady, predictable, reliable, and that reliability creates a deeper form of attraction, one that money and appearance cannot easily replace. Because in the end, people are not just drawn to what impresses them, they are drawn to what makes them feel secure. This is why emotional stability quietly outperforms external traits. Money may attract attention, but stability earns trust. Looks may capture interest, but composure builds respect. Status may impress others temporarily, but inner balance creates long-term admiration. And once you begin to understand this principle, you start seeing the world differently. You notice that the most respected individuals are often the calmest ones in the room. They do not rush to prove themselves. They do not react to every criticism. They do not allow their emotions to control their behavior. Instead, they move with quiet control. This is the quiet power most men ignore. And once you begin developing it, everything about how people perceive you begins to change. But before we explore how to develop this kind of emotional strength, we need to understand something even more important: why society convinces us that money and looks matter far more than they actually do, and why so many people spend years chasing the wrong things. That's what we'll explore next. After realizing that emotional stability quietly shapes how people perceive you, another question naturally appears. If inner stability is so powerful, why does the world constantly convince us that money and appearance are what truly matter? From a very young age, we are surrounded by messages that define success in external terms. Movies celebrate the wealthy hero. Social media highlights perfect bodies and luxurious lifestyles. Advertisements subtly whisper the same idea over and over again. If you look impressive and accumulate wealth, people will admire you. Over time, this message becomes deeply ingrained. Many men begin believing that attraction is something they must purchase or display. They work tirelessly to build status, thinking that once they reach a certain level of success, respect and meaningful relationships will naturally follow. But reality often tells a different story. You may have seen it yourself. A man who appears successful on the outside, expensive car, fashionable clothes, impressive lifestyle, yet his relationships remain unstable. Arguments become frequent. Trust slowly erodes. And despite everything he possesses, something feels strangely fragile beneath the surface. Why does this happen? Because external traits can create attention, but they rarely create emotional security. Money may impress someone initially, but it does not guarantee maturity, patience, or control. Our appearance may spark attraction, but it cannot sustain respect when challenges arise. Eventually, every relationship reaches moments of tension. Disagreements appear, stress enters, expectations clash, and in those moments, the illusion of external value begins to fade. What truly matters is how a person handles pressure. Do they react with anger? Do they become defensive or insecure? Do they allow emotions to control their behavior? Or do they remain calm, thoughtful, and composed? This is the moment where emotional stability reveals its true value. Stoic philosophy teaches that the things outside our control, wealth, reputation, appearance, are unstable by nature. They can change quickly, sometimes overnight. A financial setback can erase years of wealth. Time slowly changes physical appearance. Public opinion shifts constantly. If someone builds their identity entirely on these external things, their sense of worth becomes fragile. But when a person builds their character around inner discipline, something very different happens. Their confidence becomes steady. They no longer depend on admiration from others to feel secure. They are not constantly seeking validation through achievements or appearance. Instead, they develop a quiet self-respect that comes from controlling their own mind. This kind of stability changes the way others perceive them. People begin to notice that this person is not easily influenced by external pressures. They do not chase approval. They do not become anxious when circumstances shift. And paradoxically, this independence often makes them far more attractive, because confidence that does not depend on external validation feels genuine. Think about the difference. One person constantly tries to prove their worth through material success. Their identity feels tied to how others perceive them. Another person focuses on developing control, patience, and emotional balance. Their confidence comes from within. Over time, people instinctively trust the second person more. Why? Because stability creates reliability, and reliability builds trust. This is something society rarely talks about. It is far easier to sell the idea that attraction can be purchased with luxury, appearance, or status. These things are visible. They're easy to measure. They're easy to market. Inner discipline, on the other hand, is quiet. It cannot be displayed in a photograph or purchased in a store. It must be developed slowly through self-awareness and practice. But once someone begins cultivating this inner strength, the difference becomes undeniable. They no longer feel pressured to compete with others. They stop comparing themselves to external standards of success. Instead, they begin focusing on something far more powerful, mastering their own reactions. And this shift changes everything. Because when a person stops chasing superficial validation, they begin developing the qualities that truly earn respect. Calmness, patience, emotional control. These traits may not attract loud attention at first, but they build something much deeper over time. Trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. But to fully understand why emotional stability creates such a powerful presence, we need to explore something even deeper. There is a specific type of strength that Stoic philosophy has valued for centralizer, strength that most people overlook entirely. And once you understand it, you begin to see why the calmest person in the room often holds the most power. By this point, a deeper truth begins to reveal itself. If money and appearance cannot guarantee respect, And if external success often fails to create emotional security, then what does real strength actually look like? The Stoic philosophers answered this question thousands of years ago, and their answer was surprisingly simple. True strength is not about controlling the world around you. It is about controlling yourself. Most people spend their lives trying to dominate external circumstances. They chase wealth, recognition, and approval, believing that once they control their environment, they will finally feel powerful and secure. But the Stoics saw a flaw in this approach. External events are unpredictable. By nature, people behave in ways we cannot control. Circumstances shift without warning. Plans fall apart. Expectations collapse. Even the most carefully built life can suddenly change direction. If your sense of stability depends on controlling these external things, your peace of mind will always remain fragile. This is why Stoic philosophy teaches a different path. Instead of trying to dominate the outside world, the Stoics focused on mastering the inner one. Your thoughts, your reactions, your emotional responses, these are the only things truly within your control. And once a person understands this principle, their definition of strength begins to change. Think about how most people react when something unexpected happens. A sudden criticism, an argument, a disappointing outcome. Emotions immediately take over. Anger rises. Frustration grows. Words are spoken impulsively. Decisions are made in the heat of the moment. Later, when the situation calms down, regret often follows. But a person trained in emotional discipline responds differently. Instead of reacting instantly, they pause. That brief pause may seem small, but it represents something incredibly powerful. Awareness in that moment. They recognize their emotions without allowing those emotions to control their behavior. This is the foundation of Stoic strength. It is not about suppressing feelings or pretending emotions do not exist. Stoicism does not teach emotional numbness. Instead, it teaches emotional understanding. You observe your feelings, but you do not become their prisoner. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Most people are tossed around by the wind, reacting to every sudden gust. But a stable mind acts like a solid anchor. The storm may rage around it, but it remains firmly grounded. This is what emotional stability looks like in real life. Someone criticizes you unfairly. Instead of reacting with anger, you evaluate whether the criticism holds truth. If it does, you learn from it. If it does not, you let it pass without emotional disturbance. A stressful situation appears at work or in a relationship. Instead of panicking or blaming others, you focus on the part of the situation you can control, your response. This ability creates something rare, consistency. People begin to notice that your reactions are not unpredictable. You do not explode in anger during conflict. You do not collapse emotionally under pressure. Instead, you remain composed, and this composure sends a powerful signal to the people around you. It shows that your emotions do not control you, you control them. Over time, this quiet discipline becomes a form of authority, not loud authority, built on intimidation or dominance, but calm authority, built on self-mastery. The Stoics believed that the greatest victory a person could achieve was victory over their own impulses, because once you gain control over your reactions, the external world loses much of its power to disturb you. Suddenly, criticism no longer feels threatening, rejection no longer feels devastating. Unexpected challenges become opportunities to practice patience and clarity. And something interesting begins to happen. The calmer you become internally, the stronger your presence appears externally. People trust individuals who do not panic easily. They respect individuals who remain balanced under pressure. They admire those who can face difficulty without losing their composure. In a world where most people are constantly reacting emotionally, a calm and stable mind stands out. It feels rare. It feels powerful, but developing this kind of inner strength does not happen automatically. It requires awareness, discipline, and practice, because while the Stoic path teaches emotional stability, most people unknowingly follow the opposite path, one where emotions dominate their behavior and slowly sabotage their relationships. And understanding this contrast is crucial, because once you see the difference between emotional chaos and emotional control, you begin to understand why one destroys respect, while the other quietly builds it. Once you begin to understand the Stoic definition of strength, something interesting becomes clear. Emotional stability is not just a personal advantage, it is something that other people instinctively notice. Human beings are deeply sensitive to emotional energy. Even when nothing is said directly, we can feel whether someone is calm or unstable, grounded or reactive. Think about the people you naturally feel comfortable around. They are usually not the loudest individuals in the room. They are not the ones constantly seeking attention or approval. Instead, they carry a quiet presence. Their reactions are measured. Their behavior feels steady and predictable. Around them, conversations feel calmer. Conflicts feel less intense. Their presence somehow lowers the emotional temperature of the room, and without realizing it, people begin to trust them. This happens because emotional stability creates something that everyone unconsciously seeks: safety. In relationships, safety is far more valuable than excitement alone. Excitement may spark interest in the beginning, but long-term respect and attraction are built on emotional security. People want to know that when tension arises, the other person will not suddenly become unpredictable or destructive. When someone reacts impulsively, raising their voice, losing control of their emotions, or overreacting to small problems, it slowly creates anxiety in the people around them. Others begin to feel like they must constantly walk on eggshells. But when a person demonstrates emotional balance, the opposite effect occurs. Their reactions become predictable. They listen before responding. They do not escalate minor disagreements into major conflicts. And this calmness creates a subtle form of attraction, because stability signals confidence. A person who is emotionally stable does not need to prove their strength through aggression or dominance. They do not feel threatened by disagreement. They do not panic when situations become uncertain. Instead, they remain composed. This composure sends a powerful message: I am in control of myself, and control over oneself is one of the clearest signs of maturity. Imagine two people in the middle of an argument. One becomes defensive, speaking quickly and emotionally, trying to win the moment. Their voice rises, their patience disappears, and the situation escalates. The other person pauses before responding. They listen carefully, even when the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Their tone remains calm. Even if both individuals are intelligent or successful, the second person immediately appears more grounded. Why? Because calmness communicates strength without effort. This is why emotionally stable individuals often carry a quiet magnetism. They do not chase attention, yet people naturally gravitate toward them. Their presence feels reassuring. Their reactions feel balanced. In many ways, emotional stability acts like an anchor in social situations. When others feel overwhelmed by stress, conflict, or uncertainty, they instinctively look for someone who remains calm. The person who can keep their composure becomes a source of balance for the entire environment. And over time, this quality builds deep respect. Money may attract admiration for a moment. Looks may capture attention temporarily. But emotional stability creates something much more powerful: long-term trust. Because people are not only attracted to what impresses them, they are attracted to what makes them feel secure. This is why the calmest person in the room often becomes the most influential. 1. Their authority does not come from loudness or status. It comes from emotional discipline. And yet, developing this level of stability requires more than simply understanding the concept. It requires learning how to maintain composure even when life becomes difficult. Because true emotional stability is not tested during calm moments. It is revealed during pressure, when criticism appears, when rejection happens, when situations become tense. In those moments, most people lose their balance, but there are individuals who seem almost impossible to shake. And understanding how they develop this kind of composure reveals one of the most powerful forms of inner strength.